Hi everyone, do you know what Raphael Enthoven, Sophia Aram and Julien Payne have in common? They're Zionists. No, well maybe actually Julien, but you're so annoying it's unbelievable. That has nothing to do with it. All the monetizations I lose, it's always because of you. They believe they're always right, so they feel entitled to lecture others. Actually, yes, that's about right. The thing I wanted to point out was that all three of them blocked me on Twitter because I had blocked them myself in response to their cognitive dissonance. And actually, by not seeing them anymore, I had almost forgotten about them. I clearly remember Enthoven wasn't happy.
The abstentionist is a snob. I would say that a snob is someone who tends to think that his ideas or what he thinks, even if it's based on a prejudice, are more important. Well, that what he thinks contains an undeniable amount of truth.
I'll abstain. Abstentionists are snobs. Now that Twitter is X, I can see his posts again. Guess what? Well, they haven't changed. And it feels good to be able to count on some constants. That our brain can cling to what it really shouldn't get close to, right?
Mark Zuckerberg then, the boss of Meta, Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp, released an absolutely bizarre video.
Now that I can access my favorite fact-checkers news again, I found out he has a YouTube channel and his latest video is pure Julien Payne gold.
Let's resume our discussion on freedom of expression on Facebook and Instagram.
That is to say, the free communication of thoughts and opinions is one of the most precious rights of man. Like Article 11 of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. No, idiot, he's American. Right. It protects freedom of speech, the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Anyway, Julien still has a lot of work to do.
A movement meant to promote inclusion has increasingly been used to silence differing opinions and exclude people with other ideas.
Which is still a bit paradoxical, trying to seek inclusivity while making some people invisible. Inclusivity means the quality of a group, environment, or system that has taken measures to ensure that all people, without distinction, receive treatment adapted to their needs and abilities and have access to the same benefits and opportunities. Everyone thinks it's complicated. Maybe they weren't able to adapt enough to the needs and abilities of some people, so they reduce things for the others. Oh yeah, like if we can't give sight to the blind, we poke out the eyes of those who can see. I'm the one in charge, I'm the one in charge. When people talk to me about inclusivity, I don't feel like it's a sign of openness to the world. No, actually it's the opposite, and it's probably not for nothing that inclusive comes from the Latin inclusio, which means imprisonment, the act of putting in prison. I'm in charge, I don't want to go to an inclusive school.
Mark Zuckerberg said it was over and no longer wanted to work with the fact-checkers.
He's upset. He got fired. No wonder it's bothering him. How did the fact-checkers get taken advantage of? For example, €1,000 in Facebook bonuses for each fact-checking article from Czech News, so I guess it's a bit more motivating to fact-check 5 articles a week. So, what's going to happen very concretely is that everything you see now on your timeline, so your Facebook or Instagram newsfeed, there will no longer be any moderation by fact-checkers.
Wait, but what scares me is that until now, everything that appeared in my Facebook and Instagram newsfeed was moderated by fact-checkers?
Quickly, also saying it's stopping is untrue. Unless speaking to Americans, he's Julien Pin, to Italians, Julien Pinocchio. Because for now, these changes don't apply in Europe, where the Digital Services Act imposes stricter obligations on social networks.
What he's explaining is that it will be done through community notes just like it's done on Twitter.
And that's actually a good thing because it works pretty well.
So the community will vote to decide if it's true or false?
Community notes are useful because they bypass the argument from authority, which isn't effective anymore. Still, I hope it works thanks to them. If the television said it, it must be true. Plus, we can immediately see from the note why the information above is wrong. For example, when our guy makes a dumb comment about Europe, ecology, the Greens and their stance on nuclear power, he receives a note with a link so we can directly verify that Julien's claim is nonsense, which makes him lose credibility on this subject. Whereas on the fact-checker's side, we either have debunking, but it's often delayed. On another media platform, fake news has time to spread. This follows Brandolini's law. A lie or foolish statement affects more people than its correction. Even if well supported, this law is halted if contradiction follows immediately. For example, saying nonsense in a monologue without opposition gives more credibility than saying it in a debate. They get contradicted directly and may opt for censorship. This doesn't explain why we should question some information since they just hide it from us entirely. And that's when you get the Streisand effect, right? By trying to hide information, it often has the opposite result.
These notes can be very useful sometimes, but they can also be completely misused by people who have an interest, a political or ideological interest, in voting against information, even if it's true.
I won't dwell on this topic since I discussed community notes in my last video. These notes mainly target conspiracy theorists and politicians, exactly who Julien Payne would want to fact-check, so they're essentially replacing his job. And for free too?
Trump was elected in 2016, and the legacy media constantly warned that misinformation threatened democracy.
The danger to democracy has become the Godwin point for fact-checkers.
We made a good faith effort to address those concerns without acting as arbiters of truth.
Well, here, Zuckerberg is being really dishonest. They clearly tried to become arbiters of the truth, long before they used independent fact-checkers.
Fact-checkers have been too politically biased and have eroded more trust than they've built.
That's true, but Julien Payne would know. He gets criticized no matter what he says, even though he doesn't always talk nonsense. Some of these true or false checks are very good, but others are corrupted by the ideological angle they're asked to support, at least indirectly. Yeah, I had a professor who was full of himself. He insisted he was right, even when he was talking nonsense, so you didn't really know when to believe him anymore, so I just stopped believing him altogether. Oh, that explains it. I don't want to attend an inclusive school. Come here so I can poke your eyes out. There are other fact-checkers like Rudy Reichstag or Tristan Mendes France, but they're useless. Tristan Mendes France, Tristan is going to die. No, let me finish my sentence. That's completely off topic, but in real life I think I could be friends with Julien Payne. He seems nice and he seems interesting on certain topics. Yeah, whereas Tristan, no, he must be too boring, but even so, no, anyway. And then Rudy Reichstag, first of all, I don't even know how to say his name, so no, him, I think he's dumb.
What's striking in this video posted by Mark Zuckerberg is how he refers to traditional and mainstream media, us.
It's always important to remember that more than 90% of French media is owned by a handful of billionaires. And it's pretty much the same story in the United States. Yes, but they fund us out of pure altruism for free information. Despite many disagreements, they often agree on several topics. For example, how to fight against other ways of getting information, or who to vote for so it works out for them.
What he's explaining is that basically we're politically biased and that we're promoting a kind of right thinking and ideology.
I think he's in a good position to know since he also rode that wave.
And that we're preventing others from expressing themselves.
Fact-checking resulted in some censorship, slightly restricting self-expression.
My job isn't to push ideology or promote one idea over another. It's just to verify information, that's all.
In some videos, yes, but not in others, like the one I debunked last year or this one. It's clear Julien will reach his goal and nothing can stop him. I don't look to the sides, I fact-check, I don't look to the sides, I fact-check, I don't look to the sides, I fact-check.
We don't fact-check opinions, we just say what's true and what's false.
Biography. Graduated from Sciences Po, Julien began his career at Reporters Without Borders. Very good training, but under the orders of Robert Menard. At that time, Reporters Without Borders was financially backed by Sanofi, George Soros' Open Society, and United States Agency for International Development. We're hearing more about this now, especially with Trump's dismantling. Elon Musk said that it was doing the CIA's dirty work and that it was working on internet censorship, right? Nothing is certain, but well, the people who employ you and those who fund them, there's a good chance they influence your work. Isn't it a bit surprising to accept support from them when at Reporters Without Borders your mission is to act for the freedom, pluralism and independence of journalism, right? He will then join France Télévisions, keeping the same editorial line in his reports. An anti-Syrian, pro-American and anti-Russian bias even before the war? Well, wait, pro-American means Democrat, right? But no, he's still anti-Trump, obviously. USAID and Soros keep up. Recently, a pro-French government position on conspiracy theories, Ukraine and COVID. He will even make a mea culpa about the latter.
I regret how I handled the pandemic when it arrived. Honestly, it was just treating people like fools.
Mea culpa or not, the pain is already there.
Accusing us of political bias is very serious.
No, because you all share the same ideology as your employers and their financiers. Maybe you don't have a choice, I don't know. Or maybe it's the fact of living and working constantly with people who think the same way. Well, it reinforces the idea for you that it's the only way to think. Yet they say that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. But here, we gouge out the one-eyed man's eyes.
It's basically saying that in the end, journalism is useless and facts no longer matter.
That's not what it means. The journalist's work matters, but that's just conflating issues to make us feel guilty. It's wrong, especially since he knows exactly what we criticize about his work.
Everyone saw he was treated that way. What if we try again? Now they're ready. And I think it accelerates the contempt that we can start to feel toward journalists, toward those who lead us. Because there's this idea that they took us for fools.
And we don't like being taken for fools. The problem is that on many topics, they keep repeating the same behavior. Lying, omitting, censoring, and accusing.
I think it's extremely serious, extremely worrying for the future of our democracies.
Godwin's point from the fact-checker, the last line of defense against obscurantism every time. Jean Rudy must think he's in the Night's Watch from Game of Thrones. It's fine, Julien, go rest, I'll handle the night.
What Mark Zuckerberg is basically saying is, I've acknowledged that our president is going to be Donald Trump and that the dominant way of thinking today is going to be that one.
Wait, does that mean that Mark Zuckerberg and the other billionaires aren't doing this out of altruism? And that when they spread one ideology or another, it's because it's financially profitable for them? No, they would be capitalists. Wow, billionaires are capitalists. But even for me, it's obvious, man.
So what future do we, the fact checkers, have on social media? But nothing's stopping you from continuing, Julien.
Plus, the good news is that you won't be censored no matter what. Yeah, well, but it might be less easy money.
It's a real question now because we can see that our work is no longer considered necessary by the big bosses of these social networks.
And if it's not just about money, don't wait for their approval and support to fact check. Try to become necessary in the eyes of the users. Especially since I thought you were doing this for them. Isn't that right?
We'll keep fighting, but this battle is getting increasingly unbalanced.
But for that, you'd need to do real independent journalism. I believe Julien Payne can do that at least. Oh no, the sky is darkening. I fear for our democracies. Do you want me to come keep you company, Rudy? No, it's fine, Tristan. I have plenty. No, stop. The point is to stay awake. Ah, you're making me feel down. I have plenty of long stories to tell by the fire.
So, if these big billionaires are so interested in their moderation system and what goes on their social networks, it's because it's also a way to shape public opinion and do politics.
That's the pot calling the kettle black. Shaping public opinion is what billionaires have always tried to do through the media. Also with his indirect approval and contribution. Shaping public opinion is already what social networks might be trying to do before it bothers him. Maybe because they saw an ideological interest in it, and surely because they saw a financial interest in it. No, but there are good and bad billionaires. A good billionaire funds us, a bad one stops funding us. It's tough to fight it from either side. The only solution is to buy the media and social networks for us. But you're poor. Freedom of expression on the internet means letting all the different voices be heard together, even the voice of the media establishment in its place. Actually, it's about learning, but you have to understand it's hard. We weren't used to being challenged. The aim is to teach as many people as possible to spot the small harmony issues and false notes on both the right and left, and not force them to hear the same music repeatedly, until they hate and reject it so much that they tolerate any dissonance.
PARADOXA la 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 la.
But where? I said let's go, so why? He was never good at math. Oh, Gabriel, at the right moment, I am Utrel, son of Utrel. If you want another PARADOXA, type on the keyboard. If you want another PARADOXA, type on the keyboard. Thank you for the enthusiastic excitement surrounding the release of the latest episodes, and as usual, thank you to everyone who comments, likes, shares, and those who type. However, I will qualify that. See you very soon.